The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar where we're going to talk a little bit about Creo Modelcheck. Just a quick agenda for the webinar. So we'll do a quick introduction of Boundary Systems, then we'll move over to Modelcheck. I'll do a short demonstration and we can have a short question and answer session after that as well. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. So my name is Pierre Ventes. I'm a Boundary Systems technical specialist. I have some manufacturing experience in Creo. That's actually my speciality. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And then I've been using the same product for some injection molding design and press tools design as well. I'm also responsible for post-processes development on the manufacturing side. Just a little bit about Boundary Systems. So just some logos of the companies we serve, some of our capabilities, product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting, simulation and product development as well. Some of our major accreditations. I think the important ones here is the PTC stuff. So we are Winchell certified implementer. We're also a PTC preferred service provider and certified training partner for all PTC products as well. Just in some of the other solutions we offer, Solid Thinking, EdgeRage, and ZWCAD we have as well. So let's move on to the Modelcheck stuff. So just a little bit of background, what is Modelcheck and why you would use it. So it's basically just a tool that will flag certain situations, modeling violations that you set. We're going to work through some of these examples when we get to the demo part. It will give you a little bit of a report. So it's going to tell you what has gone wrong, and you can and then you can go and fix it. And as you work through all of this, it will also encourage the users or the designers to design the components in a much better way. So that will improve your downstream parts and all the other things that you design within Creo as well. So there's a few ways that you can run Modelcheck. The first way is interactive mode. So that's basically where you busy with a certain design, you activate Modelcheck and it runs all the rules or all the parameters that you've set. So that's interactive mode. Then you can also run it on regeneration mode. So I think that's the best way of using this tool. Is as soon as you regenerate your part, if something goes wrong, you will find that problem immediately. Then you can go as a user, you can go and fix it, or it can guide you, or it can even fix it for you, depending obviously on the type of error. You can also run it in save mode. So every time you hit save, it's going to run Modelcheck, and it's going to give you an error list, or it's going to tell you everything is okay or not. Then you can also do it in batch mode, where you set up sort of like a batch file, and then it will run through certain parts, assemblies, and drawings. So not used that much, the batch mode, but I know of some clients that will run that every night, for instance, just before backup or something like that. Okay, so then just a little bit more. So we can do model check in part mode. We can do it on assemblies. We can do it in drawings as well. So that basically covers everything in Creo. And then we have a gatekeeper, model check gatekeeper as well. But that's just basically for the windshield guys. Before you check in something, model check will act as a gatekeeper, and it will make sure all the parts is 100% company compliance before you check them in. Okay. So I think this is the most difficult part of model check, is the configuration files. So I think the aim for today is not to go and try to explain how to set these configuration files up. It's more to tell you guys what it's there for. So as soon as you realize what you can use it for, then you can start narrowing your planning a little bit down to target specific areas in your design. So the first file that we're going to discuss is the config_init.mc file. So that's an example of the file. So there's two areas where you can set this up. So it's either in the model check configuration tool, which is on the right hand of the screen, or you can do it in a text editor. So you'll access this if you go to your Creo Parametric options. You select environment, you'll have the model check settings that you can set. So this is basically just the starting point of where all the files will be, certain parts and things like that. This is not the rules or the checks yet. We're not there yet. So this is just where everything is. So you'll notice if you look on the configuration tool on a few tick boxes. There's paths, so you can see I've got a D webinars, so that's where all my files are. Okay, so that's just where your config files and all of that is. Okay, so that's the init file. Then we go to the conditioning file .mcc. So this is where you set certain conditions up. So you can have, as an example, I can say for certain user Bob, I want to run certain checks. Maybe Bob is the manufacturing engineer. He needs specific things to check, like sheet metal part thickness and things like that. So he will have certain checks that needs to be done. Right? Then another user can have different things. So you can set that up in that one conditions file. Okay, so there's the slide for the condition file. So you're going to specify what check file to use, what start file to use, what constant file, and what status file to use in that particular instance. Okay, then if we move on to the check and the start and the constant and the text files that you can use. So the check files. So this is what you need to check and how do you report the problems. The start files stores the initialization information for parts, and it's going to use this to check some things in Creo as well. Constant file, use the constant configuration file to specify constant values such as length of a short edge, and you can have more than one of the constants file. Status files will tell you like the traffic light we used to have in previous versions of Creo. I think the traffic light was removed in Creo 5. So green is everything is okay. Yellow is there's one or two problems, but they're not critical, and you can decide which ones are critical and which ones are not. and then red obviously is no go, something is wrong. Then the text files. So I've highlighted the holes.txt there. So you can specify certain text files. In the holes txt file, I'll for instance say that you can't create a 2.1 hole feature. Maybe you don't have a drawer for that, or whatever the reason is, and that's specified in that particular text file. Okay. So just a quick snapshot of my contact details. If you have any questions, you can always drop me a mail. If I can't answer the question, I'll get some of my colleagues to help me with it, and I can also contact PTC to get the correct information. There's my contact details. If you have any sales related questions, that's the sales email that you can use. Somebody on the sales team will pick that up and get back to you. Now that I talk about sales, just quickly something on that. Modelcheck is free. It's already included in the base package of Creo. So even if you've got the most basic package, you have Modelcheck. So you have it, use it. It's a great tool to improve your designs. Yeah, so let's go to the demo part. So I'm gonna fire up Creo here, and we'll work through a part. We're gonna work through an assembly, and we're gonna work through drawing as well. So first thing that I'm gonna do is open one of my parts up. So we're gonna start with the rim tool over here, or rim part rather. And there we have a rim. So let's just quickly go view where we can find all these Modelcheck information. So under prepare, you'll have the Modelcheck interactive, Modelcheck regenerate, quick rules, and geometry checks as well. Under options, you'll have environment, and you have Modelcheck settings. Okay, so this is my initiate my file that I'm going to use, and you can see here's my paths that I've specified, where they're going to read that and write, and the metrics and the reports as well, everything in there. My conditional settings. So notice that each of these have a different file extension. Okay, so there's my my checks file that I will be using. That's the default one. I've got a few others specified as well. So I can set a Modelcheck up so I can use any of those. Under configuration settings, this is where you will actually set up your checks. So I'm using the demo checks file for this particular demo, and there's all the settings or all the rules that you can set up. So we're going to use this start check. So it's going to check for a few things as we start up the model. That's specified in my start files as well. And then you can also specify where do you want to run them. Do you want to run them in interactive mode, batch mode, regeneration mode, save mode? Okay, so the yes, no, and W is a warning, and E is an error. So that's just that's going to be the result. So if there's any start checks, it's going to throw them out as errors. So here's the text files that I want to mention as well, and there's the holes one that I want. So this is my standard hole sizes that I specified. So an inch, that's the holes that I can create. If I create any other holes, for instance, it's going to give me a warning, and then I can go and I can change that. So whatever your reason is for not creating certain holes, you can just add them in here. Okay. So you've got your millimeters here as well. Okay, so that's additional files that you can use and specify for your error reporting. Okay, so that's the model check configuration tool. I guess when I start off from scratch with model check, I'll use this tool and I'll enable model check in the config.pro, and then I'll start modifying the default files that's already there. You can make a backup of them. If you install Creo again in a different folder location, you can grab it from there as well. Okay, just quickly see they popped up a question. Are there any differences between model check in Creo 3, 4, and 5? And will the settings need to be converted when we upgrade? So no. First part of the question, no, there's not a difference between 3, 4, and 5. They are still the same previous versions, wildfire versions. There's a few changes, but the principle is still the same. It's just one or two extra parameters or extra rules that you can add. For instance, one is the flexible features. So in wildfire versions, you didn't have flexible component or flexible features or flexible modeling. Now from Creo 1 up until 5, you have that, and they've changed it in there. And then the second part of the question, will settings need to be converted when we upgrade? That question, yes. So all these files that I'm talking about now, your initialization settings, your checks and things like that, you will have to copy that over to the new installation. I'll also keep a backup of that, but that depends on how you manage it. You can have all these things out of the installation directory, and it will be driven from the config.pro file. So the config.pro file will pick up your config file for model check, and from there you can you can guide it to a network drive or a folder on a server or anything like that. Okay. Just be wary where you save it. That's important, and you remember that, because a lot of the times you will set this up, you'll forget about it, and if you just overwrite your files, it's going to overwrite it with the default ones. Yeah. Okay, then we have another question. If your system admin has set up a default model check, can I still set up a model check to run besides the one set up by our system admin? Okay, so in this scenario, your admin set up a specific model check files. Can you run it next to that? I know in the initial setup, there is certain parameters that will stop you from doing that. So if we enforce it, no, you won't be able to, but you can specify your own settings. So it all depends on what you have access to. So if your config.pro file, normally they will block that. If you can change your config.pro file, then you should be able to run model check beside it. If you can't do anything to your config.pro, then they've somehow blocked that. Okay. Okay, so answered a few questions there. Let's carry on with the demo. So we were at the model check configuration tool. We're done over here. So let's go and run model check on this particular component. So you have to go to File, Prepare, Model Check Interactive. I'm going to add it to my quick start here at the top. Then I don't have to do that all the time. So you just right click on that, say Add to Quick Access Toolbar, and it added the little icon for me here at the top. So I'm just going to select that. And then you can see we have a few issues in this particular component. So this web browser screen, or the reporting that that Modelcheck's using, is in this web browser, and like the normal web browser in Creo, it is interactive. So if I click something here, it's linked and everything like that. So you can click in here and you can do quite a bit with it. So these are all my warnings, and I can disable them. So now I can just see this section. I can click on them and I can see all the important ones I have to attend to. Okay, so first one, let's start work from the top. So I have a buried feature. So these are features that's inside of another feature. So it's normally a smaller hole in a bigger hole, or an extrude within a solid extrude. So things like that will be picked up by this parameter. So as soon as you click on it, it's going to give you the information. From there, you can say, well, okay, so I picked that. Can you please highlight it? It's going to highlight it in blue. You can pick a color, whatever you want. My default settings are blue. And you say highlight. Okay, so now you can see there, that's exactly what happened. We've got a hole inside a hole here. Okay, so will it affect the model as it is now? No, maybe not. Is it good modeling practice? Certainly not. So that's something that you need to go and address. Either delete it or check what's going on there. Is the hole sizes correct? That you make a finger fault when you typed in the diameter. So that's just that warning flag. You need to go and investigate and make changes. Okay, so now we've got this. We want to investigate this a little bit. We don't just want to delete it. We want to view the reference viewer, for instance. We can do that from here. So we can see all our references. So we've got datum planes, extrude protrusion numbers 7. We've got that in here as references. Okay, so there's a few references, not any children at this stage, which is a good sign, because if there was any children's in that, then that would be affected as well. Okay, so let's go and check what happened. So now Modelcheck is giving you a feature ID. So now you have to go and you look in the model tree, and it's not always easy to find that. So what I would normally do is I will add a tree column. I will add the feature ID. Apply, and now it gives me that ID column over there. I say okay, thank you. Still, it's not that easy finding that. So it's normally in a certain sequence, but not always. So you can see, yes, for instance, something close to 13,000 up here. Okay, and then we've got something like 9,000 over here. So it's not, it is in a sequence, but not always. So one of the methods that I use to find these IDs quickly is I use the search tool. So if you click on feature, and it's by default on attributes, if you pick on the history tab, you can type in that value. So I can type in 8455. So it's a cut here. There it is. So I can throw it over to this side. It's going to select that as well. And now I've found that component. So now I can go and I say edit definition that. Let's check what's going on here. So why did I do that? Okay, so we can say placement. We can go into the sketch and we can change the angles or whatever we need to, the diameter, things like that. Okay, so let's cancel that for now. Let's say that was a mistake. We can just go and delete that. Okay, and you'll notice it's out of the model tree as well. Let's move to the next one. So early rounds. So this is just the early feature warning that I've activated in Modelcheck. So I've got a round that's within the first 50% of my features. Okay, so if I highlight this, pick it over there, highlight, So I can see it's the rounds on the outside of the rim, and this is an easy one to pick up. So it's round 120 over here. So the reason why I would enforce this rule is if I'm working with mold components, if you add your certain rounds too early in the design, as soon as you start adding your draft features, for instance, then your rounds start giving you issues with the draft feature. So this rule will force me to have my draft features first, and then I can go over to the rounds. Yeah, so that's just one of the examples I used quite a lot. And you can work through this. So let's say missing layers. So if we go to our layer tree, so we don't have a layer for curves, we don't have a layer for cuts, draft, holes, and slot. So in this particular instance, we want to add those layers, so we can add all the curves, we can hide them easily with just switching a layer on and off. So I can just say add all, and it will add all the layers for me. Another one that's quite common is the missing parameters. So if you look at your parameters, if you go to tools, parameters, you can see I have a bunch of parameters here. So it's actually easy to go and forget them or not add them like you would want them to. So I can just say pick all of them, add, and it's going to add all of those parameters in there, just making my list a little bit longer. Okay, then also a nice one to have is the model name error. So you can see my name is just rim at this stage. Company standard says you need to have 3 digits and an underscore, and then you can have a descriptive name. So you can go and you can change your part name to a more company standard. Okay, let's just close this. This is the other one I wanted to show in the particular part. So in here we've got start features where you want certain datum planes and certain coordinate systems to be at the top of your start part. Reason for that is you can use them in interchange assemblies or when you assemble components. Then you know you will always have those coordinate systems in there, and you can name them whatever you want, things like that. So it's just a nice way of making sure you've got the correct start parts. Right. So obviously there's more than one way to get that going than model check. Model check is just giving us a nice warning in this instance. Okay, so then you can also click on the tabs here at the top. So all your parameters, errors will show up here. If you have warnings as well, they will show it in here. So this is just some extra parameters. Do we need them? Don't we? That's your decision. That's just highlighting it for me at this stage. My layers, so I've added those layers. Some of the feature ones. So these are when you're working with your geometry, these will be the important ones to go and fix. I don't have any relations, and I've got some issues over here. So you can work through this model, and we've done it this way that there's a lot of issues, so we can show off model check a little bit. Okay, so that's the interactive way of running model check. So I'm going to close this component, and I'm going to open up a different one. It is the rotor that I want, this particular one. So I'm going to regenerate this model, and you can check see model check as run here in the message area. Okay, so there's no problems. Okay, so that's great. So let's go break something. So we say edit definition, this pattern, and I'm just going to change this to a 6. We say enter, and now it's still the same. I've made a change, so my geometry still looks fine, everything. As soon as I regenerate, model check will pop up and it will tell me, okay, you made a mistake recently, so you need to go and check what's going on. So what did I do? So let's highlight that. So I've made a hole inside a hole again. And with patterns, this is quite easy to do. Okay, so let's see what did I do actually. So if I edit definition this, so see, I've made it 6 members. It just added another member on top of that. Okay, so now I know that's not right. So I need to change that back to 5. Okay, so now if we regenerate again, now model check says everything is fine. Then I want to show you something else. If we run interactive, it will give me certain errors now. So now you're going to ask me, so why didn't it give the errors when I've done my regeneration? So the reason for that is if we go to our options and we go to environment and we go to model check, you will notice that some of the checks so let's take this start check for instance. So in interactive mode it should give me an error, in batch mode it should give me error, in regeneration it should do nothing. When I save it, it should give me a warning. Okay, so just keep in mind, that's just what I want to focus on here, is just keep in mind that you can set to run rules in certain modes that you are using, where you are using a model check. But just keep that in mind. That's just going to showcase that. Okay, so let's cancel this. And that's what I wanted to show in this particular model. Let's go and do assembly. So if we go to the wheel assembly, we open this up and let's run model check interactive. So now it's going to ask me, so where do I want to run this? Do I just want to run it for the top level, or do I just want to run it for all the levels or selected components? So let's do the top level first. So now I can see, so I've got a warning here about generic components. So I've got some family table components in here, and I've got the generic lug in here, and I've got the generic rim in here. Okay, so why would you want to check that? The reason for that is it's not really good practice to have generic models within your assembly. Family tables are there to make certain variants of a particular product. So you most of the cases you need to assemble one of those family table members. Remember, your generic part will have all the features in it, and the family table will switch some of them on and off, for instance. Okay, so that's just, you can do it, it's just not good modeling practice. So I can go and decide what do I want to do with these. There's my lug. So do I want to delete that? Do I need to go and open up the component and work with it? Maybe expand my family table a little bit. So you can go and do that. Make your choice. Then again, same as in the part mode, but this is just in the assembly now. So I've got some missing layers. If I go to my layer tree, okay, access is there. So let's just add all of them again. Let's see what it's doing with that one. That's, maybe there was just some parts missing there. Okay, so but it's the same as part part mode. Just keep in mind that it is interactive here at the top, so if you click on assembly models, it's going to show you a little bill of material that you can use. Okay, just click back to get back to that. Okay, so let's just quickly select interactive again, and let's just do it for all levels. So now it's going and it's looking at the components as well. Okay, so now I've got some failed features as well. So you need to go and fix those. So remember, Modelcheck is just a reporting tool at this stage where we're using it for now. And we can go and add a few things if we need to. Okay, so that's the assembly. Let's quickly do a drawing as well. So open drawing, just show you some of the things that you can do in drawing. So I'm just going to run Modelcheck interactive again over here. And it's going to give me some errors again. Okay, so nice things that you can set up here is spelling errors. So you can see we've got a note here where there's a spelling mistake. That note's over here. Okay, so you can go and fix that. Also a nice one is overlapping views. So if you highlight them, you can see it just changed the color. There's too much blue in there. Let's make it red. You can zoom in here, you can see, okay, so we've got a view that's overlapping over here. So now you can go and select that view, move it to a much better place. Dimensions, you can get them as well if there's something wrong with the dimensions. Erased views, things like that. So all your drawing related things is reported exactly the same. So there's not a big difference between part mode, assembly mode, and drawing mode. The feel of it is exactly the same. Where the difference comes in is just by your parameters that you select or the checks that you do. So if you go into your models check settings again, and if you go to your checks, you'll see you'll have component, you have drawing things, so you can enable them in here, and it's just specific things that would be reported in drawings. Okay, so that basically concludes the demo for Modelcheck. I'm going to put my contact details back up again so you guys can use that. And then I'm just going to mute myself for a second and see if there's any questions that I need to answer. Okay, I see there are a few questions coming through. I'll give you another 2 minutes or so just to get your questions in, and then we'll start to answer them. Okay, so let's start to answer some of these. So one question, if you use MathCAD in your part, will Modelcheck work okay? Can it check anything in MathCAD? Um, it it depends on what MathCAD is doing within Creo. So you can't check anything in MathCAD alone, but if you link up MathCAD with Creo and it create parameters and things like that, yes, then you can check it. As long as it is a parameter. Um, but it can only check values within Creo. So it's not going to check your input from MathCAD. Okay. And then we've got another question. Does the spell checker able to put words into a private dictionary? Yes, there is a dictionary. You can add words in there and you can manage that as well. It's the same as a text file. Like the holes one that I've showed, you can have words in there as well. Then does another question, does settings to run on regen cause excessive lags? So will it slow down your machine? No, not really. There is you will notice in very large assemblies there's a little bit of a lag, but I would say anything below let's call it 200 components shouldn't be a problem. You won't even notice that. That being said, it depends on the parts and it depends on the checks and things like that. So, but I've done it now in a very basic assembly and it was instant. So um, it is fairly quick. Will there be a webinar on how to configure Modelcheck? I'm not sure about future plans for that. Normally what we'll do is we'll sit with customers and we'll work through it with them. It depends on what they want to do and things, because there's so many things that you can do in Modelcheck. And it's a difficult thing to do within an hour session or even a 2 hour session. So I'll make note of that. I'll get in contact with with management or the guys that's making the call on what webinars to do, and I'll make a suggestion, see how we can do that in a shorter version. Then, does PTC offer any training on Modelcheck? There's not any formal training. We've got a hands-on workshop that we normally do with our customers. I think it's a day thing, and then we'll sit and we work through with you on the hands-on workshop. Where can you find more information on Modelcheck? Okay, so if you have a PTC account, you can use the knowledge base. There's some examples in there as well, but you have to be a little bit more specific if you use the knowledge base. It is a great question because I forgot to mention that as well in the Creo stuff. So let's quickly go back to this part over here. Okay, and if you go to your options and you go to environment and Modelcheck. So for instance, if I click, let's go to the checks. And let's go to demo checks. If I highlight any of these ones and I select Modelcheck help here at the bottom, it's going to go to the online help files and it should go. I have to log in quickly. So this is the normal help files. My help files is just not installed on my machine. You can install it and it will take you to the offline version. And it will give you all of this. So this is the help files. So you can see all the different things that you can do in here. So you can troubleshoot it, and you can work through it and figure it out. Okay, then the last question: are there limitations on issues that can be fixed, or for instance files being imported from external sources? I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Eric. Are there limitations on issues that can be fixed? For instance, files being imported from external sources. So if you've got an external file that's being imported, okay, yes. So missing layers and things like that, yes, you can do that. You can't do any geometry things. It will highlight that, or no, it can't highlight that because it can't check the features. But layers and things like that, yes, you can do. Datum planes, well, all the datum features, things like that. So that start parameter that I use, it will check that, and then you can add those if you need them in there. Okay. Okay. So on your features, no, it can't check for features, but on layers and datum planes and things like that, it can. Okay. So I think the important thing there is, remember, imported things is dump data, so it sort of needs to compare it to something. And for instance, if a hole is inside a hole and there's nothing, there's not going to be surfaces or anything, so there's not really a place where you can enforce that particular rule. Okay, so I'll give, I think that's all the questions. I'll give a few more seconds or a minute or so for other questions, if there are any. Okay, so there's no other questions. Then I will go ahead and end the session. Thank you for being part of the webinar, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.